welcome to Late to the Show. I'm your host, Prophet74, and today we're going to bring in gaming VR. That's all we're going to compare. We're going to compare a couple devices out there. If you're on the market looking for a new VR system, just because you want to play that new Half-Life, then stick around and watch this out and let me know what you guys think about it, and hit the like and subscribe. First of all, we're going to start with the cheapest, and then we're going to go all the way to the most expensive one, of course, and then we're going to go to the middle one, and then at the end, we'll talk about what I think you should consider buying. So first of all, let's start with the cheapest one. Let's put all on the side, and then we're going to come back and put them back to back. Well, let's talk about the cheapest one, and this is the Samsung Odyssey. All right, it's a little scratchy right now, you know. It's okay. It's served its time. Great speakers, great audio that you had, very comfortable. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't go exactly like they feel exactly like the VR, the Sony PlayStation VR. They are exactly duplicate, identical systems, other than these are a higher version than the actual PlayStation VR. Those they go by 1080. I think they're about the same. There's a little higher resolution on that. This comes with Microsoft Home. You know, you basically go through a Microsoft environment and set up your whole system. It is compatible with not with the Oculus games. It's only with the Steam store, but it's vice versa. You know, there's the Oculus games in the Steam store that you can purchase, you know, but there's certain games that you cannot play with this one. Now, functionality, it serves purpose. I mean, it was very well. It fits pretty good. Other than the cable, I had an issue with the cable. It was easy to cut. I mean, to just step on it and, you know, damaged it. I fixed it a couple of times. I'm gonna fix it for a third time again. Cable wise, they give you an HDMI connection and then a 3.0 connection too for powering it up. But other than that, cable was a little fragile. It served its purpose. It was cheap, inexpensive out the box. No plans of untethering. It's all cable. You have to, you know, the length of the cable was too short too also, and that's pretty much your distance. And if you have your computer on one end and you try to pass the system to the other end, it was a little difficult. So I find that the cable was really too short with it. Audio wise is really good. Adding and setting it up on your headset, easy, same as the PlayStation device. It's a headset. Basically, if you're not familiar with the PlayStation, there was a button in the PlayStation. In this case, it's just, you just let it go, just back and forward. There's no button. Very comfortable. The only bad thing is you can't lift this up. It's basically, that's how it is. Camera, it's not very accurate. I mean, it was off, you know. Most of the times I was trying to, you know, calibrate this, and it wasn't very good. I dropped it once or twice and it still works very well. If you guys see the scratches, camera wise, there's only 2 cameras in the front of it, and that's pretty much it. And I'm surprised it worked, but it came with this big old bulky controller too, that it lights up, you know, and that's how it was pretty much watching the system, how it was working. I like the controller, don't get me wrong, but the batteries, 2 AA batteries, you know, it's a battery hog, you know. So you turn it on, the lights turn on, and everything blanks up. And then to set it up was a little difficult too. Setting up, because you have to download there was a couple steps you had to do back end. You had to go in there and say you were a developer through Microsoft. You had to download another package. You had to install. Now it's much easier, of course. You know, they have a newer version of the Odyssey coming out soon, and it's a lot easier. So they're getting a lot prepared for a lot more VR. You know, so this is a good device, cheap. The cheapest one in the family that I currently have right now. For beginners, I would say maybe skip it for now and wait for the next version. We go to my baby. This one is full of dust. I modify it a lot. This is the original ACC Vibe, right? So if you guys are not familiar with it, ACC Vibe, then you've been living under a rock. That's pretty much. Now this one, when it first came out, it was a little pricey, you know. It dropped. Now they have a pro version, a very more expensive. It's not higher resolution than a new Cosmo that just came out, but it does its purpose. So what I did here, a couple of modification, I put wireless. This was a big plus, this one right here. Now this is it was produced by Intel chip, so there's a couple of versions out there. There was another version that was a Chinese version that didn't work very well. I put the name here if you guys want to see more, but this version is really well. Now this one right here is ready for the next version. If you guys can see it, it has a plug-in for the Cosmo, of course. Now you do have to have a PCL connection on your computer in order to connect the wireless to it. So remember, it has to be a directional antenna facing the antenna, and if it doesn't pick up, you'll find out it doesn't pick up because you're not going to see anything displayed. Now what I did to this one, I did modify it. I added these air. These were like a sponsorship program that this guy started, and he invented them and he perfected them, and they were inexpensive. These were like, I think, $30, I think, and it uses the same power as the USB because it has another USB connection in here, and you power it on and it turns on the whole thing, the whole shebang. Now this one does have a shorter cable because I did modify it with a shorter cable for the actual battery that gives it the power. Now the battery did last a couple hours, I would say an hour or two, but I had 2 batteries at one time. Very well. The headset, when it first came out, it didn't come out with any of this. This is a modification that I included in it. The back case of it, I included it just for my comfort. Now the new version, the Pro version, if you guys can see, it comes with all this except for the wireless, minus the wireless. But the best thing about it was the these controllers, even though they're ugly and bulky, they're still very good, you know, because they work with the lighthouses and they don't need a lot of cameras. If you guys notice, there's only one camera on the original one. Now the new version has different cameras. Now these are even though they're ugly, they're still one of the most accurate controllers out there that I haven't beaten with any of these other ones. The reason is because it continues to work with the lighthouse, and as long as you have the lighthouses, the little boxes that you have in there, they're going to continue to work very well. This is an older version of the Vive. I used it. I replaced a couple of these things already. It served its purpose, but it's time to go. And the Pro version, I will skip the new Pro version. I mean, it's similar to this one. It's just blue. The device is new high resolution, faster frequency and all that stuff, but skip it. Wait for the next version. We're going to talk a little bit more about Oculus Rift. So it's a little dusty too. I have a lot of dust in here. This was a good device and it's well made. It took them quite a while to come out with a new version of it, but the only problem is tether. You need a cable. At the end of the cable, it's a pretty long cable they give you. You know, they give you a lot more cable than the Oculus, of course. And all this cable, they give you 2 connections. We're talking about the display connection and the 3.0 connection that you have in here. Resolution is about 2560 by 1440. That's pretty much what you get. It's a little lower than the new Cosmo, but we're gonna talk a little bit of good things and bad things about this one. Now, this one's $599. If you guys find it, you can find it cheaper. Button wise, it has a couple cameras. It has 1 camera, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's pretty much it does. 2 on the side, 1 on the top, and then 2 more here. So we're talking about 5 cameras. They are in the works right now, which you guys know that Facebook owns Oculus. They're working on making that modification where it could distinguish your hands. It could move you. These cameras are going to be able to see your hand movements. So in the future, you might not need any of the controllers right now. But this is a good, very well made system. Now, there's a couple of things I don't like about it. The headset itself, the strap itself, it's a little cheesy. I mean, fixing it up, it's the same as the Samsung Odyssey. It's the same feature. You pretty much back and forward connection. 1 cable. I don't know if they're gonna have plans to remove this cable and you can make it wireless. I'm not quite sure about that. It does have another headset jack here in case you want to include your own connection to it, because if you guys notice, there is no headsets on it, but there are speakers. Now if you guys go back here in the back here where you guys can see it, I'm going to try to move it out of the way. Right here, These are the speakers. They're not very loud. They're enough for your ears, but people around you can hear them, and they're gonna be mixed around with, if you're gonna be streaming and gaming, you might have some issues here and there, but they're good to listen around to your environment at the same time listening to a game. This part right here is not very comfortable. It's one of the things I dislike. This nose padding, it's one of the things that I don't like. And if you're wearing glasses, they say it works with glasses. It's true, it does work with glasses, but I had issues before, so it's one of the things that I tend not to, you know, focus too much. I take off my glasses or put on my contacts or go without glasses, whatever it is. You can do that. Now these don't bend. You can't modify them to open up or anything else, but this is a really well made unit. And then on top of this, this is one of the best controls I like. I mean, very simple, easy to move. This feels like something that's made for my hand. If you guys notice, you know, my hands are huge for this device, you know, very sensitive to move, very easy to push the buttons. Durable, nothing's durable, you know, these things could easily break. I hear stories about people dropping them and they just shatter. Button wise, I like the buttons. I like this part right here, the palm button. I don't know what you call it, but basically you palm something, a gun. It kind of feels like you're grabbing a sword. You let go and it drops the sword, replacing back. It's a different feel. So you're gonna have to get used to playing your games that you currently have right now. Tried a couple demos first before you start, you know, getting really into the games, because it's a little learning curve on these systems. But this is a lot lighter than any of the devices we're going to talk about, and it's one of the best controllers I like. The only bad thing is that tracking this system is very difficult because it's tether. You need lighting too also. You may make sure you have enough lighting around you. Once in a while, when you have to recalibrate, you have to redo your room pretty much every time you play or every time you turn on your machine. Depends. Sometimes it just recognizes, remembers, and it knows what to do. But if you move and shift around certain things, you're gonna have to recalibrate. Now, the application itself, the Oculus application that they give you, they try to sell you everything, of course, you know, and the market's pretty big. But on top of that, you can play any Steam game also too that's compatible to your Oculus. So when you purchase a game, you got to make sure it's a compatibility issue, make sure it works with it, because if you don't have the icon with the little O, then you cannot play the games. All right, just make sure that you do that. But other than that, it's a really good buy. And if you're gonna buy something under the 600 mark, this is probably something I will get. Now, this one, you're saying, why are you putting this one at the end? Why? Well, I'm gonna tell you why. Because overall, I think this is the best one. It's a little $100 to more than the last one. You know, we're talking about $699. Okay, $200 more, you know. But the feature that it has, it's pretty good. But it does need a lot of light to function very well. So you have to have a well-lit room or some sort of lighting. Make sure it's going to reflect back into the sensor. Not natural light, because sun cannot reflect into here or damage your lenses. It has to be some sort of LED lighting or some sort of very lit place in order to play this stuff. Cable wise, they give you the same amount as the last one, as the Oculus S. You know, it's a long cable, different connection, different point of connection. There's only one connection here, but on the actual other end, the box, you do need a 3.1 and you do need a display port connection. So you do have to sacrifice two connections, similar to the last one, similar to the Oculus. Other than the resolution is a lot higher here. We're talking about 2880 by 1700. One thing that I really like about it, that I didn't like about the Oculus S, is that the Oculus S has those built-in head speakers. These are headsets. These you don't need to go anywhere else. You want to disconnect them, you could disconnect them. You go add your own too. They give you the option to remove these and add your own. Feeling wise, this is probably the most comfortable one I've seen and I've used so far, and I'm going to demonstrate it here. So I'm going to show you guys why I like them, and I feel like, hey, these are pretty good. So you could, this is very simple for your head, especially a big head like mine. Removing, they all work the same in the back. They just twist them all. I think this is a universal thing if all the systems going through. So basically you just strap it on. And it works well with the glasses too. And if you want to talk to somebody, you just lift it up and you just, you know, move your head. Right now I have the cables here. Headsets wise, you could adjust these. They're adjustable. The headsets are adjustable. You can move them up and down here, if you guys could see this. And this is probably the thing that actually sold me, was that in the future they have other stuff coming out for this, that you could use your lighthouse, your existing lighthouses, by replacing this faceplate with a different faceplate. Hand gestures are going to come out available soon. They're going to, just by replacing the head, the same kind of feature. It's going to be like a Lego thing. You're going to be able to replace this, and other features are going to be included, which I'm excited. I'm reading more about it. I'm getting more thrill about it. You know, I'm going to see if I could get the rest of the items as soon as they come out, but they're not set to come out during summer, so it's a waiting period from now to summer. So if you're watching this and it's summer, they're probably out there already. Now, devices are going to be interchangeable, of course. We might completely eliminate the controller and talk about the controller. Oh yeah, let's talk about the controller. The controller's probably the ugliest one I've seen so far, to be honest with you. The bulkiest one, you know. It's a lot smaller than the Odyssey. It works better than the HTC VIVE. But I prefer the Oculus S controller. It's a lot smaller. This is a lot bigger. It doesn't have that little grip on the back on the side of it, but it does have this trigger here. So getting familiar with it from controller to controller, it depends on the user. So this is a lot bigger. Does use batteries too, 2 AA batteries too also, which I don't like about that, but it's something you have to live with it. But at the end of the day, you're going to be interchanging the old controllers with this device too. And on top of that, the wireless feature does work with this interactive. It's not available yet. There's still some fixes to be done. Maybe by the time the video is done, they're going to come out with the solution. So there is a compatibility. They're advertising the wireless to work the same existing Vive wireless that you buy at the Intel. It's going to work well with this one. Now, on top of it, there's more cameras on this one. There's actually 6 cameras on it, and a lot of them are for tracking this. And they're supposedly going to be tracking the hands, but we're going to take a look at it. Overall, it's more expensive, but it's a lot durable and it's a lot better built than the Oculus S. And on top of that, they're putting extra features on it and the highest resolution, but the price is a little high. That's the only thing that you're going to pay for, the price. Now, other than that, the tracking once in a while, it's going to need lighting too. All these devices are tether in. It's pretty much works that you have to train them. You have to teach the device where is your boundaries every time you have to, something happens. It needs to calibrate, you have to do the boundaries. You do a new game, you have to do a boundaries. Once in a while, I recommend you doing all the time, because if you play a game, you turn it on and you move your desk or you do some sort of modification, calibrate the system. Those are the only bad things about it. Other than the Vibe, you don't have to calibrate constantly. You don't have to move things around, because it works very well with the torches. Like I said, you know, the little lighthouses are going to be tracking all the time. So that's one thing that's a plus from the older devices. You might get it cheaper, like it's in some places, but this is a go-to device. This is probably the one I wanted to use the most, and just because of the resolution, the things I'm excited are coming out for it. And if you guys are into market and you want to buy something now, this is probably something I will buy. So if you guys have any questions or any comments on any of these devices, or your opinions different than mine, then go ahead and put them up. You know, that's what it is for. It's your opinion. It's a free world. Anybody could comment on any of these devices. So if you guys like what you guys see, make sure you guys subscribe and hit the like button. And then on the next videos, we're going to bring more gaming so you guys can check it out. So I'm your host, Prophet74, and we are out.